I'm excited this morning as I am every Sunday morning. Can I get an amen? Amen. It's always good to be in the house of God with the people of God, worshiping God and hearing the Word of God.
Yes, amen.
But this morning I'm especially excited because we've got a special guest speaker, Stephen Katz, here with us this morning. Many of you know him. He's been coming to this church close to 20 years probably. And I really appreciate his ministry. He has a ministry that doesn't get much love, but it is much needed. He ministers a lot to hurting pastors, to hurting churches, and he's been involved in many motorcycle clubs throughout the country, and there's great need in those. And boy, if he could tell stories, I bet you he could tell some stories. And he's been very good for this church. I remember, when Pastor Ron died, he came and he was here, and he spent at least a week here with the elders that week, and then I remember 3.5 years later, he came and spoke, and I can't remember anything he preached on that day, but I remember while he was preaching, the Lord spoke to me and told me it was time to go full time. And so I appreciate Stephen Katz's ministry, and would you give a warm Trinity Family Church welcome to Stephen Katz.
I brought protection. You may need it. Yeah, you want to put that on me? I'll explain the puppy dog in a minute. Say hi to everybody. Oh, he says, well, let's get over here and meet some people. His name is Jackson, but my son calls him Bonkers. Because like most of you, after your third cup of Starbucks coffee, he's a little out there. He's going to come meet everybody. Pastor Wood. It's good to be here today. Just got in from Arizona. Oh, he's meeting everybody. Yeah. Okay. Everything's fine. Can you hear me okay? Yep. This little guy is going to be part of the message today. Here, let me capture you here. Oh, old person bending over. Okay. Capture you here. Oh, old person bending over. Okay. Say hi to everybody. Bonkers is a rescue dog. We got him out of a rescue place with 21 other dogs. He lost his eye fighting for food. And he was very damaged emotionally, but you can see he's well adjusted now. But Bobby, my middle son, is very ill. And Bonkers belongs to Bobby. And so I was in Arizona about 2 months ago, and Bonkers got sick and he wasn't eating, and we were having difficulties with him, so we took him to the vet, and the vet did x-rays, and they found that he had a cancerous tumor on his spine at his hips. And his backbone was deteriorated, and they said, if we could do something with the cancer, he won't be able to walk here shortly. You would pick him up, and he would cry out, and in a lot of pain. And so I looked at the x-rays, and I said, well, do we put him down? What do we do with him? Got back to the house and had to tell Bobby that his puppy was probably going to have to be put down. And Bobby broke and cried, and he said, Dad, I am physically ill myself. He said, I can't find a relationship because the women could not handle his physical problem. So it caused the last 2 women to walk away from him. He said, I'm physically ill, my relationships are not there, and now I'm going to lose my dog. What else? And I know what he was thinking. What else is God going to take from me? Ever feel that way? Ever feel like something's taken away? So I took, pay attention, dog. He wants it set up so he can see. So this microphone's going to be proper. So I took him back the next day, and they x-rayed again, and they said it's just hopeless. They wanted to send us to an oncologist in Tucson. And twice, when they had him under sedation, working on him, twice, I walked towards the office door and I was going to tell them, go ahead and put him down. He's in a dream state. He won't know it. Just go ahead and put him down. And I couldn't do it. I could not do it. And so we sent the x-rays on to our vet in Texas, and he said, how soon could you bring that dog to me? But he said, this is grave. This is very serious. He said, can you get me an ultrasound? So we looked for someone who could do an ultrasound. It took us 10 days from his original 2 x-rays. And we finally found someone who would do an ultrasound, and so I was going to have that done. So before I took him in, I was walking in the rain, in the warm Arizona rain, and my hair folded down around my eyes, and I was crying, and I looked up and I said, God, are you really there, or am I just talking to the clouds? How many know what I'm talking about? You hit those places, those strongholds in your life, you say, God, are you really there? And I said, God, I need a miracle so great, so wonderful, that no one can explain it away, no one can say, well, isn't that fortunate, or we misjudged, or whatever. I need for you to do something for me so that I know that you're there, and I know that you're listening, and I know that you care. And so the next day, 10 days after the first 2 original x-rays, I took Jackson, or Bunkers, to the new vet, and she said, let me take one more x-ray from a different view and see what happens. So I said, okay. She came back with him about 15 or 20 minutes later, and she said, Pastor, we got to talk. I said, okay. She put up the first 2 x-rays, and she said, you can see the tumor, you can see where the cancer is, you can see his backbone is deteriorated. Even the discs in his backbone were missing at the last part. We knew he had had troubles walking. And she put up the new x-ray. And she said, I've never seen anything like it. The cancer was gone, the tumor was gone, and the discs in his backbone were there. In perfect place. Don't get too excited too soon, because here was my question. I said, God, why would you heal the dog and not heal my son? And as I was walking, I heard God speak to me. And he said, Stephen, I healed the dog to let you know that I'm listening and I'm aware. Whatever God's doing in Bobby's life, I'm listening and I'm aware. But he said, I healed that dog to let you know what I can do. So here he is, all happy. He's all excited. He wants me to let him go and let him run and meet everybody, but that's not going to happen. I'll tell you what, Pastor, if you will take him to my trailer. Oh, there you go. This brother will do it for you. This will let you in the door. There's another dog in there. He's not vicious, although neighbors have come up missing, and we have fresh diggings in the backyard. But I don't want you to worry about that, because there's probably nothing to it. And if you could just make sure the other dog doesn't get out, and just shove him in the door and tell him hi. The other one's named Brew. Bye, Bunkers. Everybody say bye, Bunkers. I want to talk to you about bringing down strongholds. In my son's life, he's very sick. He's 39 years old. Every relationship he's ever had has folded when they had to deal with his physical illness. And the U of A recently told him that there is nothing we can do for you. He's been to 3 specialists in a row who have said there's nothing we can do for you. This is the rest of your life. We don't know the longevity of his life. We don't know how things are going to come out. But this is a stronghold in Bobby's life. And when God healed that dog, I was so perplexed. God, how could you heal the dog and leave my son ill? But when I prayed and when God spoke, he said, I did it to let you know that I'm aware and that I'm listening. That's comforting to me to know that God is aware of what I'm going through and that He's listening to my prayers. I want to talk to you from Joshua chapter 5, verse 13 on the subject of bringing down strongholds. And keep Bobby in prayer. I'm trusting that God will do that mighty work. It's just amazing to look at those x-rays, those 3 x-rays, and that third one. That cancer was gone and every disc in his backbone was in place. How many have ever been divinely healed? And you know you were divinely healed. Isn't that a wonderful feeling? God just loves us so much. Joshua chapter 5, verse 13. And it happened when Joshua was beside Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes and he looked, and behold, a man stood in front of him with his sword drawn, and it was in his hand. And Joshua went up to him and said to him, "Are you for us, or are you for them? Whose side are you on?" And that man said, "No, I now come as the commander of the army of God." And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and he worshipped him. And he said to him, "What does my Lord speak to me?" And the commander of the army of Jehovah said to Joshua, "Take your shoes off, for the place which you are now standing is holy." And Joshua did so. How in the world can it be a holy place when I've got a stronghold 25 or 30 feet beyond that? Jesus is there. Jesus is there. It doesn't matter what's in front of you. It's what dwells inside of you. I want to take a few moments to talk to you about bringing down strongholds. And strongholds are those things in your life that are standing in your way. They're the things that are keeping you from your destiny. God has a destiny for you. Maybe it's a habit or an attitude that you have in your life that stands in your way. And you know what I'm talking about. It's that thing that's right there in front of you that's holding you back, that you just can't seem to get past. It may be pornography, it may be alcohol, it may be cigarettes, and people say, well, we don't want to touch on cigarettes. Cigarettes are bad for you. I'm not calling cigarettes a sin. I'm just telling you it'll kill you. Hello? Bad for you. But whatever that attitude or that anger, whatever is in front of you, that's a stronghold that needs to be dealt with. Now, Jericho was Joshua's first battle after he crossed into the Promised Land. Now, remember that Joshua was one of the original 12 spies that was sent in to spy out the Promised Land some 40 years earlier. But when he came back, he said, out of the 12 spies, 10 said, we can't do this. We cannot do this. We can't make it. This is too tough. It's not going to be possible. But Joshua and Caleb said, man, we're well able. God said we could do it. We need to do this. But the church listened to the 10. And for 40 years, they sat on the wrong side of the river, looking across at things that they could not possess. So for 40 years, they dealt with that, looking across the river at something that they would never have access to. But now Joshua is on that other side. The first generation died. Unfortunately, they had to die. But now Joshua's there on the other side, and he meets the angel of the Lord, and he said, whose side are you on? I dealt with a really tough church in Louisiana, very tough church. And my opening statement was this: I'm not on the pastor's side. I'm not on the board's side. I'm not on this church's side. I'm not on this community's side. I am here to carry out the will of God in this situation. And that church was healed that week and is very healthy today. But this angel, he said, no, I'm not here for you. I'm not here for them. I'm here to carry out the will of God. Now, we joined this story as God gives specific instructions to Joshua concerning Jericho and how to bring it down. And I want you to listen to this. Joshua 6, verse 1. And Jericho was closed, and it was shut in from the face of the sons of Israel. No one going out, and no one coming in. You ever get that feeling? Life has shut you out. You need a better job, but your boss has locked you out. He's walled you out. He doesn't want to talk to you about a better position. He doesn't want you to get a raise, and you just feel locked out. Or maybe you want to make your marriage work, but that mate has put up a wall. And they've walled you out, and you try to talk over coffee, and you're there having coffee and at your breakfast table, and you want to say, love me, but they've walled you out. It becomes that stronghold in your life. No one going out, no one coming in. You've been waiting for your healing like Bobby. You've been waiting for your healing for a long time, believing that suddenly God was going to do it. And you wait and you wait and you wait. Listen to me, church. There is a way to unlock Jericho. There is a way to bring down the strongholds in your life. There is a way to defeat that thing that has been standing in your way. There is a way to be free this morning. There is a way. Let's read on. Verse 2. And God said to Joshua, see, I have given you Jericho and its king and the mighty warriors into your hand. Now there was the promise. I have given it to you. It's yours. How many have a promise right now from God that you're waiting on? He said he's going to do it, but you're waiting. Okay, now listen to this. But there's a catch. Oh, I hate that. I hate it when there's a catch. Listen to the catch in verse 3. And you shall go around the city, all the men of battle, going around the city once, and you shall do this for 6 days. God said, here's the catch. I'm going to give you the city, but I want you to march around it once a day for 6 days. 6 days of marching in the desert heat? No, I don't think so. I'm fair-skinned, light eyes, and blonde. Well, it's turning gray now, but it used to be blonde. I don't tan, I burn. I don't want to do this. God, why involve us? If you have the power and the authority, why involve us? Why don't you just huff and puff and bring the wall down? Why don't you just deal with it? Why does God involve us in His conflicts instead of just doing it for us? It's because He's testing our willingness to be obedient. 6 days. Walk around that massive city 6 days. One time every day. 6 days. Verse 4, and the 7 priests shall bear the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. And on the 7th day you shall go round the city 7 times, and the priest shall blow with the ram's horn. And it shall be when they make a long blast of the ram's horn. And when you hear the sound of the ram's horn, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people shall go up, every man in front of him. God said, if you will do exactly what I tell you to do, Jericho will fall. Obedience. Do exactly what I tell you to do. You see, obedience is the key to this whole thing. Doing what God tells you. Okay, let's continue. Chapter 6, verse 10. And Joshua had commanded the people, saying, you shall not shout, nor shall you cause your voice to be heard, nor shall there go from your mouth a single word until the day I tell you to shout. And then you shout. Now there's catch number 2. Walk in silence. Why walk in silence? Because God knows it's in our nature that if we do not get a 5-minute answer, we're going to start mumbling. God, I need healing. Whoosh, I'm healed. I'm happy. God, I need healing. 10 days go by. 5 months go by, or like Bobby, 18 years goes by. And you find yourself walking around your situation saying, God, what are you doing? So Joshua told him, don't say a word. Walk in silence. Don't speak up. Don't say a word. Don't do anything. Just walk. And here's the central truth here. You will never bring down strongholds in your life by murmuring and complaining, will you? It doesn't help, does it? Right. I've murmured and complained to my wife about things. It hasn't helped. Certainly doesn't help our marriage. I'd tell you a joke if I thought you could handle it. I told the pastor, I said one day, I said, my wife said, if you don't stop complaining, I'm going to slap you so hard it'll change your zip code. She didn't actually say that, as far as you know. We got a policeman in our church. I told this to the pastor, we got a policeman in our church. We have several policemen. We have undercover and we have uniformed officers. And I went up to one of the uniformed officers and we really like each other. I said, hey, my wife's been giving me a little trouble. He looks at her and he smiled, and I said, I'd give you $10 if you just give her a little tickle with that taser. He said, I can't do that, but I'd do you for free. Okay, let's get back to the work. I got to be truthful with you. If it would have been me there, and God said, I want you to walk around your stronghold for 6 days, one time a day, and I don't want you to talk, I don't want you to murder. If it had been me, day one, it's a nice day for a walk. I like this. Day two, it's a little breezy. I should have brought my coat. Day three, I'm bored. Didn't we do this yesterday? Day four, I'd have been poking Joseph and saying, remind me again, why are we doing this? Why are we going around this same situation? Remind me again what this is all about. By day five, my feet hurt. I told Kathy to pack my Nikes, but she said, sandals are good enough for you. I don't want to do this anymore. And by day six, I'd have been thinking to myself, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to find a new pastor. I'm going to look for another church. Because Marty said, and I've been out here 6 days in the heat, and I don't see anything happening in my behalf. I'm not sure I could have done that, but maybe by day 7, my anticipation would have started coming up. Maybe by day 7, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Maybe this is the day. Maybe today I'll get my healing. Maybe today my heart will start beating regularly. Maybe today my husband or my wife will love me again. Maybe today my children who have gone off in sin will come back home. Maybe today, maybe by the 7th day I had walked out all my frustration and I'd be waiting on God to do something in my life. Maybe today, so maybe by that 7th day. Can I encourage you in something this morning? I want you to hold on. You could very well be in your 7th day. You could be in your season where God's going to do those things He said He's going to do in your life. Joshua 6:15. It happened on the 7th day. They rose early. I like that. Why did they get up early? Because today they got to walk it 7 times. They got up early at the dawning of the day and they went around the city 7 times in the same way. Only on that 7th day they circled the city 7 times. And it happened at the 7th time the priest blew at the ram's horn, and Joshua said to the people, shout! For God has given you the city. Notice, the priesthood responded first by blowing the ram's horn. And then, when they heard that, they shouted. And churches all across America are waiting for their pastors to sound the alarm. But pastors are timid about sounding the alarm lest someone be offended, or we get in trouble with the government somehow, or we say something that's going to land us in a jail cell. Let me tell you something. That stronghold is going to stay in front of us until we start blowing the ram's horn. And until the people start shouting. It's going to stay there. It will not go away on its own. This community is waiting for churches to rise up and help take care of the poor, and help feed people, and help do things. And had a pastor friend of mine, I love him like a new pair of socks, and he was telling me one day, he said, Brother Steve, we just had 8 glorious services. 8 wonderful, wonderful services. And he said, I haven't even been able to preach for 8 services. And the people just worshiped God and wept and cried. And I said, does the man living down the street under the bridge in a cardboard box know that? And he hesitated. And I said, have those 8 days caused people to come up to you and say, Pastor, put me to work, I want to do something for Jesus, or Pastor, give me a job, or Pastor, I want to become a part of what you're doing? And he said, no. And I said, then what were the 8 days for? What were the 8 days for if it did not cause the vision of the house to become bigger or things to happen? What was that for? Verse 20, and the people shouted and blew with the ram's horn, and it happened. And it happened when the people heard the sound of the ram's horn, the people shouted a great shout, and the wall fell down under it, and the people went up into the city, each man in front of him, and they captured the city. Strongholds come down when you shout. Now, let me ask you something. What is in your way right now? What is it that you've been facing? What is it in your marriage, your job, in your mind, your attitude, your anger, whatever? What is it that is in front of you right now? Are you angry at your situation? I've got friends that are angry at their job. I told them, I called one of them this morning in Arizona, and I said, being angry at your job won't solve anything. You can't change the situation at your job, but you can change the situation in your heart. And I said, when you get up in the morning, you say, this is the day that the Lord hath made, and I will rejoice and be glad into it. You walk into that same bad situation, but with a new attitude, and you can begin to bring down that stronghold. But the stronghold is oftentimes in us. Are you depressed about life? Are you worried about the economy? Are you disappointed in God? Are you ready to give up? What is it that's standing in front of you right now? Things don't just go away. You can't avoid it. You can't get past it. You've got to deal with it. It's got to be dealt with. And I know you're discouraged, some of you, but it's time to get your shout back. Pastor, what's going on with so-and-so? I don't know. Why? They used to shout in your service. They used to worship God. They used to lift their hands. They used to weep and cry. They used to amen. And now they're not doing any of those things. Pastor, what's wrong with them? They've lost their shout. You got to get your shout back. How many would like to get your shout back? There you go. 4 things I want you to do to bring down your stronghold. And I told Pastor, anytime you guys want copies of my notes, you can have them. 4 things I want you to do. First of all, obedience. Ask God what He wants from you and do it. Ask God what He wants from you and do it. Walk that wall 7 times on the 7th day, 7 times. Don't speak, don't murmur, don't whine, don't complain, don't do anything. Just do what I tell you. Find out what God wants. Number 2, shout until it falls. I know you're worried, but you need to let your enemy hear your praise. Amen. Amen. I said you need to let your enemy hear your praise. Amen. I was walking this morning after making my phone calls to various churches and pastors and people depressed, and and I was going through all of that, and all of a sudden I was walking through a parking lot, and Marty, I began to sing. I sing praises to your name, oh Lord, praises to your name, oh Lord, for your name is great and greatly to Lord, give glory to your name. Oh Lord, for your name is great and greatly to be praised. What was I doing? Letting my stronghold hear my praise. Letting the enemy know I still have my shout. Number 3, put the past behind you. When the wall fell, they went through the wall and they put the wall what? Behind them. What was in front of them is now behind them. There is no future in the past. And there should certainly be no past in your future.
Amen.
You got to put it behind you. Well, you know, what I went through as a child, I'm sorry you went through that as a child, put it behind you. You see, we damage our relationships because we bring something from a past relationship into the next relationship and damage it. Because we couldn't put it behind us. Put it behind you, put it in the past. Keep your eyes forward and don't look back. When the walls fell, they put what was in front of them behind them. Last of all, what time is it? 11:45? I'm hungry. Let's just close in prayer. Father, we thank you. Okay, last of all, deal with it.
Amen.
Deal with it. Joshua 6:21. This is a hard verse. And they utterly destroyed everything in that city. Both man and woman, young and old, ox and sheep and donkey, they killed them all with the edge of the sword. Wow. Why? Because what you don't deal with today will deal with you tomorrow. Get it out of your life. Get it out of your house. Get it out from under your pillow. Get it out of your mind. Get it out of your marriage. Get it out of there. Totally get away from it, because what you do not defeat today will work at defeating you tomorrow. And I am tired of having a stronghold in front of me. I'm tired of my son being ill. I'm tired of having a heart murmur or whatever's going on in my heart. My heart stops and then it skips beats and it goes, it's like being in love. It skips beats, but it doesn't have that same warm and fuzzy feeling. That stronghold gone, so I'm going to continue to shout at it. But there are things in my life that I need to deal with, so I'm going to deal with them today so they don't deal with me tomorrow. Right. Make a decision today to be obedient to God, and I guarantee you it'll bring that stronghold down in your life. Or you can keep that in front of you for the rest of your life, and you'll be in the promised land, but locked out of Jericho. Father, I just thank you, God. You're so wonderful. And God, you know my heart. And you know that I can be abrasive at times, and that I can be determined. And you know my heart, and you know the areas where I need to soften. And so that abrasiveness becomes a stronghold in my life, and until I deal with it, it's going to deal with me tomorrow. That attitude that's in our heart, that frustration that's in our heart, that disappointment. God, we get disappointed with you at times. And we may not say it, but we get disappointed. God, I felt like you should have been there for me, and you weren't there. That disappointment becomes your stronghold. But Father, I'm going to sing praises to your name. I'm going to glorify your name. Because that's my only answer. It's my shout that will bring down the walls in front of me. It's my shout. It's the shout of the pastor when he grabs that shofar and he blows on it. And then the people hear that and they respond and they shout. And it's our seventh day and our seventh lap. And then things start coming down. I pray that the strongholds that are standing in front of this church will come down. Strongholds standing in front of the people will come down. Strongholds in those marriages where that mate has walled you out, I pray that that wall will come down and you will have access to their heart, and that there will be a mending in your marriage. pray for your healing. I pray, God, that right now in Jesus' name, healing will flow through this house. Let healing flow through this house. God, many of these people are in their 7th day. They prayed a long time. God, let it be today. I want to see it. I want to witness. I want to shout with them. I pray for my son Bobby, so far away. I said, God, you did it for his little dog. I know you can do it for him. I bless your name with the stronghold still firmly ahead of me. I bless your name. And I praise you. And I sing praises to you. And I shout and I glorify you. Because that's the only thing that will bring it down. In Jesus' name. As always,